Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your Sagittarius April 2022 predictions and forecast. I'm Nigel Saint James. For those of you who are stopping by for the first time, welcome. Good to see you, and it's fantastic as always to see the subscribers. Of course, I've seen a number of Sagittarians over the last month for one-on-one clairvoyant readings with me from different parts of the world, and if you'd like to have one with me, just check out the information that's in the description box below. But now let's see what there is in store for the wonderful Sagittarius. Do you know, Sagittarius, it reminds me of a lady in the US who I had a real soul connection with. Her name was Cleopatra. That's how I knew her. She was, if you like, a client, I suppose, in a way. And Cleopatra sadly passed away not long ago, but of course she's still with us, as we are all. We just we get out of one car and jump into another car, so to speak. And her son, a younger man, well, I say young, he's younger than me, but then everybody's younger than me these days. He's reading tarot on the YouTube, and I reckon his style is very different to mine, but he has a great presence and a great way of doing it. Joey's Tarot is what you should look out for, and I think that he will be a superstar on the YouTube, and he will, I think, and I hope, that he will far eclipse whatever success I do or don't have. But Joey's Tarot is the guy. Joey is a great guy, and anyway, I won't say anything more than that. Let's see what there is in store for you. Hindu mythology. Well, you know, we're looking at myths. Myths aren't things that are wrong or stupid. A myth is a vehicle. It's a way. It's a story. It's a way of giving language and enabling people to experience a spiritual mystery. That's what a myth is. So to hear that something is a myth doesn't mean that it's wrong. What it is it's a way of trying to put in human words and conform to human emotion things that are of a spiritual nature, where, of course, in spirit there are essentially no human words, and it's a very different mode of being. But it's one which you have been in before and you are going back to, as are we all. Let's get them underway, shall we? Here's the Five of Lotuses. This is Three of Staves. This is the Tower. Do you know, I think the Tower is a good card. A lot of people are scared of the Tower, but you know, they're babies. The Tower is a great cleansing thing, and it's a portent of the divine coming through into you. Anyway, there's the Eight of Staves. I won't give it away any further at the moment. Let's see where the reading takes us, shall we? That's the main thing. What's this? There's the Four of Lotuses. Well, I'm glad to see those cards there for you. Come down now, sit down here next to me. We'll have a good close look at the imagery on these cards together while I do the reading for you. All right, now we might start with this major arcana that's in the middle. Now, what is going on in this painting? Okay, let's have a look. This is the Tower. And here we have, look, without going into all the backstory of the Indian myth that's around it, there were three sons of a being called, a guy called Tarakasura. And Tarakasura was a deva, which is a being of light. And he was very powerful, and he was waging war against the gods. And he was so successful that it was thought that heaven itself would fall. But in the end, Tarakasura was killed. Now the sons, there were three of them, they thought that they could cheat death by constructing three magical cities which would fly about in the universe at will. Now, once in 1,000 years, they would all line up in a straight line. But that was only for a second that would happen. And it was in that instant alone that they could be destroyed. Now, these cities, metaphorically, are actually
the energy centers or chakras within the astral body, and they represent the lower aspects of indulgence and hunger for power, things like that. The genital chakras and the navel chakra. Keeping the concentration or personal energy in the lower chakras leads to desire for power, overindulgence in all sorts of things, food, sex, wine, and really having fantasies of immense power. Now, it is an open invitation to the shadow side to take over the psyche. Now, the god Shiva is part of the Hindu trinity of Brahma, which is the creator god, Vishnu, which is the preserver, sustainer god, and Shiva, the destroyer or the renewer. What happened was that Shiva's auspicious consciousness itself, and he decided to halt these high-flying rebels. So what he did was, and you'll see it here, let's go in a bit closer, he mounted a chariot driven by Brahma. His arrow would shatter the triple cities with the aid of Vishnu, and at the tip he placed Agni, the fire god, and at the base was Vayu, the god of air. Now at the conjunction of destiny, at that 1 second, he set loose the divine shaft, and the reign of the demons was over, because Shiva only needed a split second. Now, let's see what this means for you at this time. Look, really the astrology of this is Mars, the warrior planet, as you would expect from this picture, in full attack mode to destroy, in this case, the cities, but here, the tower. Now, the tower is that part of your ego that is, well, a part of consciousness that is trapped in form. The structure of identity is something that you have built up during your lifetime. Who your parents were, what your childhood was like, what clothes you wear, what experiences you've had, all of which are fairly ephemeral, external things, but they all combine to give you a sense of identity as to who you are, but that is not who you are, in fact. This is talking, because if you took all those things away, you would still be there. When you were born as a child, you were who you were at birth, but none of these things had formed any identity with you. And if you look at a child that's about 3 months old, and gaze into their eyes as you hold the baby, the eyes have such wisdom contained within them. Haven't you found that? Haven't you wondered at the wisdom that is in a baby's eyes? Well, this is talking about a far-reaching inner transformation for you, also a period of healing, I think, and the old is being destroyed to make room for the new. Perhaps self-knowledge is coming about here. There's a release, a revelation, a breaking down of old forms or patterns, and maybe also something of a sort of a calm after the storm. The power of the consuming, purifying fire destroys the old and sweeps it away. Nothing is spared. The tower of the ego is going to be shaken to its very foundations. Anything you attempt to cling to will be destroyed by this transforming power. The apparent securities of the past have begun to waver and topple. All that remains is trust, the knowledge that all events in life arise from the endless love of the universe and bring you the possibility for learning and recognition. This understanding of the true nature of events transforms even apparent losses or painful disappointments into the valuable gifts that they really are. Times of desperation and inattention, when recognized, can become the most fruitful growing phases of your life. You're in the midst of or about to enter into an extremely transformative process. Whatever is destroyed or shaken within you serves to purify you and make room for something new, so allow it. Are you ready to view yourself and your life with new eyes? Observe yourself in daily life. Situations may seem to repeat themselves, but you will not continue to repeat old, limited, restrictive behavior patterns. Say this to yourself: who I think I am is a belief to be undone. I have the ability to heal and restore myself at all times. I am not inside my body is inside me. And everything that happens in my life always happens for the best. We turn next to the Four of Lotuses. And again, there's an Indian mythological scene at play here. Basically, what it is that the devas that I spoke of have reached a breaking point in their exile from heaven, and they resort to a dangerous expedient. Now, here is Shiva. Well, the son of Shiva is the only being that can kill Tarakasura. Tarakasura was the head of the civil unrest, the anti-gods beings that were there. And so in order to make that happen, Shiva must be lured into a marriage. Now, here we have the spirit here, the deity of karma. Karma is often mistranslated as lust, which is the strongest desire, but it does mean, I suppose it does mean sensual desire, sexual desire. They're things that are associated here. And what happens is that karma decides to say, well, I'm going to shoot my arrow at Shiva and pierce him so he falls in love with Parvati here and can then, well, produce something that we can control. But Shiva abruptly recognizes that this girl who serves him is divinely beautiful, and for a tiny second desire flames within him. But this snaps his unbroken flow of meditation and makes visible the soul lignum that is his inner reality, and also the first vibratory sound, the primal sound of Om that sets creation in motion. In any event, Shiva is not persuaded by the arrow that comes before him, although his anger does build up, as we'll see in just a moment. Now, astrologically, we're talking here of the moon in the third decan of Cancer, 12th of July to the 22nd of July. Now, the moon rules Cancer in astrology, which in some respects is probably the only great strength of this card. I think that the underlying message here is that you want to be emotionally fulfilled, but you want to be fulfilled in a deep way, don't you? You want deep, reciprocal intimacy, total intimacy, and deep love. But maybe you're going about it the wrong way. Now, the moon is also associated with the principle of flux and change, and your emotional states might be shifting at this time, just like the shifting phases of the moon. Be careful for not settling for what you have, and be careful of inertia and not appreciating what you do have, or striving for something that you can't have. There is a sense here that you may be feeling some sort of a boredom or dissatisfaction in life. Maybe you've become too familiar with your environment. It's a feeling of a lack of motivation, so you need to seek new goals. Maybe you're looking at material things for happiness, but I can tell you, you'll just get sick of them, and a temporary pleasure, such as a material thing, may only just be a limited fleeing from discontent. There's also the opportunity here, or the danger of substance abuse, alcohol, drugs. Look, really you do need to realize what you do have and appreciate it, because as you know, many others are worse off than you. The main message coming through here, though, is that you are being given much love and devotion. Enjoy it without becoming dependent on it. Are you in any relationship in which you feel restricted? Are you expressively devoted to someone? Now, say this to yourself. I enjoy being with, the name of the person, full of thankfulness and joy. Now that takes us to, well, we may as well take the next card in the suit of lotuses, which is 5. And see here. Oh, look, well, this is going on from this scene here. Now, you see this guy? Well, he's now being consumed by this fire, and Parvati, who's here, she's running away. So what's going on? Shiva erupts with the essence of incandescent rage. Now, karma, you recall that being that's about sensual desire and sexual desire, his little trick of trying to force Shiva into a marriage here, has done nothing but open Shiva's dreaded third eye, the power of discrimination. Now, this paradoxically calm wrath of utter clarity blasts and devastates karma in a tidal wave of fire. Now, this is not rage anymore. It is divine retribution for insolence. It is also a mythic rendering of the great truth. Only being grounded in consciousness can vanquish desire. Now, this form of Shiva, also known as Kalagniradra, the howling fire that devours time. It is a triumphal moment in the evolution of consciousness. Desire can be recognized, denied, and overcome. And it is also a defeat for trust in the power of the lower nature, represented here by Karma's confidence in Parvati's beauty being enough to win over Shiva. Now, with so much energy associated with the image, it wouldn't surprise you to know that the astrology here is Mars ruling the first decan of Scorpio. I also have mystically, with the number 5 here, associated the planet of Mars as well. So there is a double dose of Mars. Mars ruling Scorpio, well, we'd expect a positive aspect to this card because Mars is, in fact, the ruler of Scorpio. But it's also taking place in a card with the numerology of 5. And 5, with that extra Mars, is all about destruction. It adds extra fire that's here. And the extra fire evaporates the waters of Scorpio. So what we see here is that maybe that you have some unfulfilled expectations, maybe a loss of a sense of balance. This could be as a result of reactions to this transformation that's going on through you. So don't worry, because it's all for the best. Maybe there's some problematic relationships. Now, that can come about if you are going through a process of transformation, because there may be some relationships that you have decided to get rid of. It has to be said. Maybe your expectations with respect to something or someone were much too big. Maybe some unexpected event, perhaps only a thoughtless reaction has ruined your expectations abruptly. Now, the aggressively destructive energies now dominating the scene have probably been smouldering beneath the surface within you for a long time, I think. You've overlooked them, perhaps because you didn't want to admit to their existence. You ignored the warnings of your inner voice, but now you have to face the sobering facts and look them in the eye. Look, remember, every disappointment contains, however, the possibility of an important learning experience. Maybe things didn't work out as expected, but this card is saying don't wallow around in self-pity and regret, because new and better experiences are in store. If you are feeling disappointed by someone else's actions, find it in your heart to forgive them. I know forgiveness is very, very, very difficult to do. But remember this, that in the process of forgiveness, the person who is released is the person who forgives, not the person who is forgiven. And I think that the feelings which might surface can point to things that could tend to give rise to fear. Fear of taking another risk or making an effort in the future or hiding away someplace where you can't be disappointed again. Don't do that. Life is for loving and for living. Now, either some much too high expectations of yours have been crushed, or somewhere deep inside of you lurks the fear of some disappointment. Well, now is a good time to learn from this situation. In what areas of your life do you fear disappointment? What have you learned from the disappointments you've experienced until now? How can you prevent disappointment? Say this to yourself. I get to know my own reality by learning to see where I fool myself or where I deny my inner voice. Well, where shall we go, do you think? What's up on this row here? Okay. This is what we would traditionally call the Three of Wands. Let's have a look to see what's going on with it. Now, you've heard of Sri Lanka. Well, in the old days, Sri Lanka is an island that is about 880 miles or 1,400 kilometers in a straight line south of the subcontinent of India. Now, at the time, the king of what was called Lanka at that time was Ravana. Now, Ravana was a shape-shifting sorcerer, and he manifests his rage, I suppose, and shows his fearsome, 10-headed, many-armed form. He has been truthfully told that Rama is a divine being and is the seventh avatar of the god Vishnu. Now, this guy has kidnapped Rama's wife, Sita, and Rama's armies are coming from India to Sri Lanka and they'll build, with divine aid, a stone bridge carrying them from India over to Sri Lanka. Anyway, he's being told here that Rama and his army are invincible, but he disdains such honesty and hates it. Now, Ravana was actually a Brahmin, a priest, a great scholar of his time, apart from also being the villain of the piece. And he wrote great things on the performing arts and the machines of war. His titanic power arose from the fact that he was a great devotee of Shiva and was capable of tremendous self-denial, I suppose. Now, whether he denied himself when it came to the wife of Rama, whether he denied himself taking Sita is, of course, another question, one that was never, it seems, resolved. Now, because he was so powerful, I guess it was impossible for such a being not to have an inflated sense of the self. But faced with Rama, his equal in every way, and another great devotee of Shiva, he simply couldn't summon the awareness that in kidnapping Rama's wife Sita, he had committed a terrible mistake that would devastate his people. Now, here we have the sun in the second decan of Aries, 31st of March to April the 9th. Well, the sun is also the is exalted in Aries. And so this placement is very favorable. And Aries enjoys a challenge, and Aries suns are happiest when their lives are moving forward. I see here for you integrity, honesty, self-confidence. I don't think you'll be making any compromises about anything at all. You'll have ideas crystallizing, and this is a confirmation that you are on the right path. This process that you are going through here is the right process for you. It is the right process for you. You are on the right path. You perceive and allow your own power, free play, never giving it over to someone else. You really now have the ideas, and more particularly the direction in which to make the ideas come into fruition. Now you must also understand your virtues and trust yourself to make the right decisions in your life at this time and not be held back by fear. This is about looking inside and outside with integrity, honesty, and no compromise. Might also tell you to just check the integrity of somebody else and that somebody else could be an Aries. It is important for you to operate from a place of integrity at the moment before making decisions, and to have clarity of mind and heart before acting to bring about the best results. And unless you have that clarity, don't act. But if you do have clarity, now is the time to act. Pay attention to your own point and internal stillness. Center yourself and overcome. Are there any reasons for self-doubt? Do you yet doubt your virtues? You should not. If you are not centered and feel doubts lingering within, then work on it and say, I can do everything. And say this too, I have the power and the virtue to reflect and to know. And that leaves us then with the Eight of Staves. Well, here's Rama and Sita again. Now, the war was won. And while he went off to war, Rama, to get his wife Sita, Rama left his brother in charge of the region to rule it as regent. Now, the brother said, look, I'm only going to do this for 14 years. And the 14 years was already up. And in order to get back in time, what Rama did was he prevailed upon the gods to provide him a vehicle, which is this human-formed vehicle, also made from wood and metal, that could expand infinitely as a sort of a jet plane to fly him back across the ocean and back into India. Well, this is Mercury ruling the first decan of Sagittarius. Mercury is the planet of communication. In the number 8 there as well, this is the 8 of Wands. I also have Mercury associated with the numerology of 8. So there's a double dose of Mercury. Well, Mercury is the planet of communication. And Sagittarius, you have the swiftness of the arrow. And this is going to produce in you something of a restless intellect. Now, this 8 here also brings you power, balance, harmony, manifestation, practicality, skill, and importantly, decision. This is the energy for overcoming the hindrances which have stood in your way. The blockage is now going away. Now, if you state your own standpoint openly, directly, and clearly, these hindrances will be transformed. Misunderstandings will yield to clarity. You have now, I think, found your own inner center and can present your position with emphasis and openness. A problem which has appeared insurmountable until now fades meaninglessly into the background because of your clarity. If you overcome the tendency to hesitate and are prepared to call disturbing influences by name, then you will rob them of their power to restrict and hinder you. The moment has come for you to define where you stand. If you are open and remain centered, misunderstandings will be cleared. Is there anyone to whom you do not dare openly state where you stand? Use this opportunity to open yourself up to those people who mean something to you. Talk to them and say this to yourself, because this is a strike while the iron is hot card. My openness and self-confidence opens the hearts of those I love. That's the way it is for you this month.
Thanks for joining me. It's been really great to see you, and I loved sitting down with you and doing that reading for you. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed providing it to you. And isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting, all that stuff? Well, remember one thing, of course, and that is this, that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. And until then, it's bye for now.